Episode 47.
Yeah. The episode where Mark drinks decaf.
Really? Out of a single use cup.
Yep. That's right.
And the world keeps burning.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to light this on fire with propane and
Kerosene.
yeah. No. You're right. It's a paper cup. Here I am. Breaking the law.
It happens. We do our best. Things happen.
Yep. I'm just going to be full transparency since you called me in on this question. I have a reusable coffee mug in the shelf that I could have grabbed before I went and got coffee this morning.
Do you have one in your truck? Oh, no, you
I
rode
don't
your
have
bike.
my truck.
Yeah, you rode your bike?
Yeah.
All right, see, that's kind of...
It doesn't exactly mitigate it, but,
Doesn't mitigate it, but you didn't make it worse. You didn't... Yeah. You didn't spray the neighborhood with propane while you were...
No, I leave that to my neighbor who likes to barbecue a bunch.
Barbecue. Hey, is it sprinkling up where you are?
No, it's just misting heavily. But even that's not happening anymore. As you can see, there's sunlight coming through the window here.
Is it on your shoulder? Does it make you happy?
Yes, and I'm a big John Denver fan.
I was a huge John Denver fan.
Yeah. He was kind of a stubborn guy.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And he and George Burns starred in one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, we've spoken of that movie on this podcast.
It should be remade again, I think.
I don't know if it should be remade. It should be
I think we're having this discussion for a second time. Go back to episode 4 or whatever it was. We had this discussion. But just since we're here, who would you cast?
To have an
argument? You cast in the roles?
Wait, wouldn't it be funny to have an argument where we switch sides every time it comes up?
Sure. No, we should not make God.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's time. There should be no redo on that one.
Who would I cast? Well, kind of in a way, the Jim Carrey, I just forgot the actor's name. Driving Miss Daisy guy.
Oh, Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman. There, that movie was kind of very similar.
Driving Miss Daisy?
No, yeah, with Jim Carrey as the old lady. No, well, with Jim.
What was the title of that movie? I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. It was
where he was given the power of God.
Right.
Mighty
yeah.
Anyway,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you? We're remaking the original one with with some slight modifications.
How could you possibly do that? Those two were so perfectly cast. And
that's why I'm asking the question.
What's her name?
How would you cast
the wife? Gar. What was her name? Gar.
Something. Yeah, Carrie Gar, Sherry. I don't remember exactly. Terry Gar.
Terry Gar. She was so perfect. I mean, that was just a point on casting job. How could you get someone else to play God the way George Burns did?
Well, yeah, I mean, I like it, and who would you cast?
I'd cast me as the guy who sees God.
Okay, and then Morgan Freeman is the God.
He did a great job in that movie with Jim Carrey. A kind of benign, everyday person, God, Almighty God.
So I would cast Dave Chappelle as God and Jonah Hill as the regular guy.
That'd be good. That'd be good. But I got to say, if I was at the table where this idea came up, I'd go, don't do it. My vote is don't redo this movie. It was done perfectly. It's like someone going, "Hey, let's paint another Mona Lisa."
Let's
It
do
was
Star Wars
done.
Episode 4 again.
Exactly. You like exactly. That's it. Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Oh, wow. A lot has changed since the production meeting.
Really?
There was a big leak
Where?
in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court leaked.
That sounds very sexual. Bunch of old people leaking. Um,
All right, moving right along.
you know, yeah. I wonder when this actually goes live. I wonder where that whole thing, because I haven't really heard anything since, the big link, and I don't know.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's National Women's Checkup Day,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it is.
It's
Today is.
also the anniversary of the Salem witch trials.
No, it's not
So,
the anniversary of the Salem witch
well, it's
trials.
the commemoration of them. That's a
It's
much better
when
way.
Salem Village renamed themselves to Danvers in
That's true.
1992.
That's true. You're right. You're right. It's a point of note.
They were
But
embarrassed to
yeah,
have
as
the
well they
name
should be.
Salem's
As
Village.
well they should be. A lot of the women that were tortured and burned were doulas and natural healers.
Also, the tests they had were ridiculous. Put you underwater. If you drowned, you weren't a witch. If you live, you're a witch.
And we're going to burn you.
Yeah, it was no win.
Nothing funny about this, really.
Well, you either laugh or you cry, right? It's one of those things that's
Yeah.
just so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. I told you about the diatribe that I got from our friend Mike. Did I?
I don't think so.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was this email. Because he and I chat primarily via email.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent this beautiful diatribe that was about the darkness of humanity. It's not going to get better. We're all fucked.
Did he write it, or was he
Yeah.
sending you someone else's
No,
writing? Oh,
no,
okay.
he wrote it. He was just saying where he's at with life.
Okay.
And then he said, "Have a nice day, Mike." That was so funny to me.
It's so funny because he's really a brilliant and intelligent person, and his insights and his command of language are tremendous. I mean, one of the amazing things about his songwriting is he casts such amazing imagery with the way he writes lyrics. And so I can just imagine, without even reading this document, the level of clarity and the level of insight and factual knowledge, and then a kind of emotionalism that isn't emotionalism. It's just real. It's just the way it feels for him and coming through. And then all of that still wraps up at the very end with a kind of cheeky recognition of how humorous this is.
Well, I don't know if he's seeing humor in it, but he understood how I saw humor in it, because I wrote back, "Thanks for the laugh." I couldn't help but chuckle at that beautiful diatribe.
Punctured by
Signed
"Have
off
a
with
nice
"Have a
day."
nice day." Yeah,
Yeah,
but
isn't there like a trailer for a horror movie called "Have a Nice Day" with
there
like
is, yeah, and they
with
got the
the happy
smiley.
face coming around everywhere and
Well, I
just
had the
like
smiley face with a drop of blood on it. That's
yeah.
actually the Watchman. Isn't that the Watchman symbol?
I don't know. I
I
think
think it
so.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that little "Have a nice day." That's also what I said in the money tree when
You mean your character said in the money?
David, yeah, when David's leaving the island after they're talking about life in LA and stuff and straight job.
Yeah, you got to play a mogul.
I don't know if I was a mogul. Well,
You
I
lived
guess,
on your own private island.
yeah, I did.
That's
Help
a
me,
good character. We could do like another thing with that character.
Rusty. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
What
How
happened to
how,
Rusty when he
how are
got
you and Chris doing as far as your friendship goes? You've had
great?
your ups and
He's a
downs, right?
brother. He's a brother. Well,
Right.
a couple years ago, we had a huge blowout where I
Yeah.
thought, like, okay, this is the end. But a month later, we mended that fence, and it was
So
What's
how would you like frame a new story of that character Rusty? And it's
Rusty?
2022. Weed's legal. The money tree,
I would say because he gets busted in the movie, in the
yeah,
money tree. So I'd say he does time, and comes out, and does get a straight job. He goes totally straight, has the wife, the 2 kids, perfect business job, straight, and he does some ayahuasca like in his 40s, and has this weird trip, and this goes off on this artistic creative tangent.
yeah, because he was a painter in the film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for those of you who don't really remember, there was an independent film made by a guy named Chris Dienstag, and Greg was acted in it, and weren't you kind of an associate producer on that film?
I think today I'd get a producer credit. I was production manager is the
Production
credit
manager,
I got. But I did everything. I also helped distribute it. I was in
right?
charge of all the marketing and promotion when
The
we
film is about marijuana, and it was made in the 90s or the 80s.
it was released in 92.
So it was
It took
shot in
about
the late
5
89,
years.
90.
Yeah, late 80s it was
Yeah.
shot.
And at that time, marijuana wasn't legal for all of you youngins who don't remember those days.
And that time you could go to jail for a joint.
Yeah. And the tagline of the film was one of the greatest taglines ever. You never see a man in a gutter with a joint in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's
The
pretty good.
money tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's kind
think
of
there's
launched your
gonna be
film career, didn't it?
well no, it didn't. I don't have a film career.
Bullshit. It may not be super cool or super visible but the fact
Or
is you have
just
a body of work.
I have a body of work, but it's not a career.
Yeah. Well, okay, good. That's a good distinction. I sit corrected with my empty, non-usable cup.
Ah!
Empty. The show will no longer be funny now that Mark is out of decaf.
Let's cue Sammy Hagar.
Let's not.
Ooh, this planet's on fire.
Stop it.
Oh, it's Satan's desire.
What,
He's seen the rise, he's
all right,
seen the
Mr.
fall.
Frito,
He
cut it
turns
out.
people.
Cut it out, Frito.
All right, so we'd like to wish Rosie O'Dawson and Billy Joel happy birthday today.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson, man.
Rosario.
She's so amazing. She's done so many great things. She was in Batman, The Audio Adventures. She was in All Elite Wrestling, Dynamite, the TV series, Young Rock.
You know what's
It's
interesting about her? Because she's
Rocky
worked with
Horror Show live stream theater. She played Magenta, right?
wow. She's done so many. She's done a variety. Like she's done big budget Hollywood, and she's also done like scraping the barrel independent stuff. She's willing to just really do a whole
Yeah,
lot of different things.
yeah. The list on IMDb is just amazing,
Yeah, she's
right?
worked with Kevin Smith a lot. Wasn't she in all like his movies, Mallrats and
I don't know about that. I'm seeing Robot Chicken TV in the 2000s. I don't see anything about Kevin Smith.
what about what was
She's played
dang,
in Josie and the Pussycats, the movie, which was fun.
Silent Bob, Silent.
Yeah, I don't think she's in. Well, it's nothing before 1995 is on this list.
Oh,
So,
really?
she directed one film. What was that?
Really?
Boundless. Oh, it's a short film, and she's got 12 producer credits.
Wow.
Our Worlds Collide, Split at the Root, This Is Not a War Story, Telethon for America. Most of them are documentaries.
Okay, we've gone on a lot about Rosio.
Well, before we leave, she's one of my favorites for one reason, and she is Ahsoka Tano.
What's that?
Ahsoka Tano is a Jedi who is expunged from the Jedi Order. She's Anakin Skywalker's Jedi apprentice. And then right before he turns into Darth Vader, she gets in trouble with the Jedi Council and she gets purged from the Jedi Order and has to run away. but she survives, and she's reemerged in this modern series that they have going now called The Mandalorian. So she was in that and the Book of Boba Fett, because there's this crossover between them. And
Really?
she plays Ahsoka Tano, who is a force sensitive Jedi Padawan, but who isn't officially a Jedi, but she's been trained and she still has her lightsabers, and she's living in this period of time where the Emperor is hunting down all of the Jedi still.
So was she in the movie?
She's not in any of the movies yet. She's just in the TV shows.
Okay, so because when you say that right before he became Darth Vader, she wasn't in that movie where he becomes Darth Vader.
No, she's in she's a character that originated from an animated TV show called The Clone Wars.
Okay.
And she's a young child Padawan Jedi apprentice who is Anakin's student, and Anakin trains her.
In a live TV show.
No, that's the Clone Wars. And then she appears later as a fully grown adult. But during
Did
the
she do the
4
voice
years,
in the animated? Did she do the voice in the animated?
no, that was done by a different woman. I should remember her name. She did a great job. And there was kind of an uproar when they didn't cast her in the role, because she's actually has her own sort of
Fan base
and charisma. She's good, right?
Well, there's good, and then there's good.
Then there's Rosario Dawson good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's good. And who is that other dude that it's their birthday? That Mr. Forgettable?
Your favorite musician of all time. You put him above Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Boring.
Who's that?
Billy Joel.
Oh, that's right.
The piano man. Jinx, you owe me a keyboard.
Yeah. So I wonder what movies he's been in. Not much.
Has he been in a movie? I bet you his videos are listed in IMDb.
Yeah, I could look him up in IMDb. Let me just do that real quick.
Billy Joel. I hear he's also very stubborn.
He was in something called Oliver and Company in 1988. Let's see what else it says here. He wears his hair like me.
He famously was married to Christy Brinkley.
Oh, he's actually got a pretty long list, but most of it's music videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not an actor in that sense.
Right.
He's got 42 composer credits, 285 soundtrack credits.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that he was that involved in the film industry.
He gets writing credit on something called the Billy Joel, the Essential Video Collection. Let's see. What soundtrack stuff is he listed on? I think that's just stuff where they used his thing as sync sound. Yeah. Uptown Girl, New York State of Mind, Uptown Girl, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. Right. There's just a bunch of stuff that they used his songs in.
I heard a recent interview with him, and he was talking about how come he doesn't write anymore. And he's like, I just don't want it. It's hard work, and I don't want to do it.
That's honest.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I just get together with Elton John 2 times a year at Madison Square Garden, and that's enough money to keep me going.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he and Elton are doing that anymore.
No, I think that's over. That was my attempt at a joke.
And, but
he was married to Christy Brinkley for a while, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. She was his uptown girl.
And he was uptown them legs.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but
he was shorter than her too.
She did have 2. Yeah, her legs were as tall as he was.
Her legs were insured for more than his fingers.
That's what she loved about him. She could just stand there and he could just stand there, and things were proportionally right for what she wanted.
Now you're just making up stories, Greg. Every week we get a little glimpse into your fantasy sexual life.
It involves cunnilingus.
Yeah. Yeah. Breakfast of Champions.
Yep. Box lunch.
Ooh, I'd never heard that one before. That's pretty good.
Dinner to go.
Yeah. I'm going to circle back because Mother's Day was yesterday and today's National Women's Checkup Day. And, women are pretty important in this world, and beyond their value for their sexual organs. Although without them, none of us would be here.
Yeah. We did discuss last week, wasn't it? We had a discussion about transgender and sexual
Yeah, but
experiment.
Women's National Checkup Day, like that means
What is
like things
that?
like blood pressure. More women's high blood pressure goes undiagnosed than men, and
Well,
they bear a lot of stress. And
who has more strokes, men or women?
oh, I don't know. I think it's men,
I think so too, which shows
but I
that
don't have
women can
facts to
hold
back me
stress
up.
better than men.
Well, either that or they have it cushier.
You just said they have high blood pressure.
I'm just trying to get myself in trouble.
And
They have undiagnosed high blood pressure.
your partner's going to come through that door with a frying pan, just whack you upside your bald head.
That'd be
Like
great.
a
That'd be great.
Humpty
Put me out
Dumpty.
of my misery.
Put you out of her misery. Man, that's boy.
Yeah,
I was
like
having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours yesterday, and one of her family members is so angry, just so upset with the world, and it's taken her to a place that one could say she's crazy. There's a mental illness. And I don't know why I got off on that tangent.
well, there's
Happy
something
Mother's
about
Day.
her. I'm assuming there's something about her, the way she communicates this information, which is significant to you.
Yeah, I think when I said put you out of her misery, that triggered that element of, again, when we blame others for our misery, believing they're the
So you're
source.
equating her discomfort and her seeing the mass psychosis that we live in as problematic, as if she's suffering.
I think that I think the world's suffering stems primarily from the victim stance of,
So here's this woman, she's having a hard time. Her blood pressure's high. She appears crazy to people, and you're gaslighting her.
yeah, because fuck her. Happy Mother's Day.
I knew you just played along like that. Just so you know, I know you better than that, Greg. Greg, you're just saying that to be funny.
No, it's
Unfortunately,
real.
it's not working.
Oh, she's dead now.
Your
She heard
mom?
this episode and died. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My mom just had a heart attack with this episode.
Yeah. Sunday's Mother's Day. Sunday was Mother's Day.
Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday was Mother's Day.
I don't
Today's
have
also Lost Sock Memorial Day.
I don't have anyone to send Mother's Day cards to anymore. My grandmothers are dead. I guess I could send one to my aunt.
What about any of your sisters have kids?
Yeah, one of them does.
Yeah, so you could
She's
just
technically a mother,
yeah. Well, yes, technically she's a mother, Mark. That is how
but she's
that
not
works.
my mother.
No, your mother is dead.
That's right.
You don't know how many moms do you think you've had in your life?
Well, I think what you're alluding to is this kind of spiritual mom, this kind of caretaking mom.
Yeah, mother, a matriarchal mother figure.
It depends if we count my current girlfriend or not.
You're sleeping with your mom. That is just sad to me.
No, I'm
It's
just
sad
trying to
to
be
all
funny
of us.
with that statement. A lot of guys do kind of replay that whole like
Well, absolutely.
conflict with their mom thing.
Yeah.
No.
Famous.
Wow.
Who was it who killed his dad and slept with his mom? In the
Oedipus.
Greek, Oedipus.
And was killed his father and slept with his mom.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You said
Killed his mom and no, I didn't. I said killed his dad and slept with his mom.
Okay.
Playback. Hey, Art, play back the last 2 minutes. We need to work on our technical equipment.
Yeah, well, if you guys just subscribe to our non-existent Patreon page, we could afford something that would maybe help us be able to rewind.
Hey, I was wondering about Patreon this morning about whether we should just do these live streams on Patreon instead of going to Facebook and YouTube, before the podcast is actually live.
I think until we hit 20 subscribers, we're ahead of ourselves.
Wow. The mendacity of, like, you used your real name this episode.
Yeah, so did you.
Yep.
What's the translation of that Cyrillic anyway?
That is Russian.
Right? Isn't
In,
that the way? Isn't what we call their writing Cyrillic? Isn't that what we call it?
is it? I don't
I don't
know.
know. Let me look it up.
I don't call it that. And that's in honor of today being Victory Day in Mother Russia. God, I think that's pretty triggering. Russia's pretty triggering right now. But it is Victory Day, and Russia is is the reason Nazi Germany was defeated.
Yeah, 77 years ago, the Russian front, the Russians defeated the Nazis. They were producing for every five Nazi tanks, the Russian were producing 7. If what I read, if I'm remembering correctly about what I read. And it's amazing that the Allies waited 2 years after the invasion of Russia to help them.
Yeah. People wonder about the Cold War. Well, there was a reason for the Cold War.
Yeah, what was that reason?
Because the Russians were calling out for help to England and the United States. And it seems from historians looking at the facts that England and the US chose to let Russia bleed a bit. They liked that Russia was getting hurt. So they didn't help. They just stood by the sidelines. And
yeah, it says psychologically the Soviets were proud and angry that they sacrificed more than anyone else in Germany's defeat. And the Red Army's losses, 7 million troops by moderate estimates, were larger than those of the rest of the Allied armies combined.
wow.
And also larger than the combined military fatalities of Germany and Japan. So they really did put some flesh and bone behind defeating the Nazis. They also lost 13 million civilians because, of course, we were here in America and none of us here in the country were attacked. It was only our soldiers in the field of battle who faced the danger. But in Russia, their actual citizens and the civilians were subject to the attacks of the Nazis, along with other people like Poland and Czechoslovakia and France and stuff like that. It says 100,000 Brits and Americans lost their lives in comparison. It says that they pushed the Wehrmacht, which is the German army, back more than 2,200 kilometers step by step. A Herculean effort in which not one Western soldier did anything. So the Battle of Kursk, 2 million Soviet and German troops clashed alongside 6,000 tanks, 4,000 aircraft. It was more than 4 times the size of D-Day. We helped build a bunch of that stuff. Finally, Americans recall their massive supplies to the USSR since its invasion, including 6,000 aircraft, 3,700 tanks, 210,000 vehicles, and by spring 1944, creating the impression of the Red Army's victory was fed by American industry, and the impression was unfounded. Apparently, the Russians built over 1,500 factories, and they produced one of the best war tanks. All of this according to an article from the Jerusalem Post. So if you want to look up more data, then otherwise, if I read much more, I'll read you the whole article, and I can see Greg's falling asleep at the microphone.
So I didn't
But it's
answer your
weird,
question.
Russia saved all our bacon from the Nazi scourge.
That was so twisted that my mind is still reeling from what you just said. Oh, I'm moving to Danvers. Where is Salem? Is that in Massachusetts?
Yep.
Hey, did you ever read Salem's Lot?
Nope.
The Stephen King book? No.
Nope. I didn't watch Exorcist. I didn't read Salem's Lot.
What
I
about
don't date
The
anyone that
Shining?
wears pentagrams.
You don't what? You don't hate anyone that
I
wears
don't
pentagrams?
date anyone that wears pentagrams.
I think your partner wears pentagrams. Witchy woman, see how high she flies.
That was when the Eagles were good.
When did they go bad?
After Herb Peterson and Chris Hillman left.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't like the Joe
No, I
Walsh?
like all that stuff. I love Hotel California and
Joe Walsh wasn't with them
all and
during
the
Hotel
Walsh
California,
is
was he?
great. What?
Was Joe Walsh on that album, Hotel
He
California?
was on the tour. That he joined the tour, but
He wasn't on the
he
album.
wasn't on the recording.
Right, right. The album after that has
Oh, I
some
might
good
be wrong
songs.
about that. Let me look.
I don't think he was. I recall him joining later. Like I recall he had some radio hits with just Joe Walsh, like Life's Been Good to Me So Far. And then he joined the Eagles.
Actually, he's in it. He says here
He
that
is?
he came up with part of the arpeggio that ends the song, but he
Oh,
didn't
wow.
get credit.
Wow.
Yeah, so the ending solo was performed by Joe Walsh and Don Felder. Don Felder was also someone who was ousted from the band after the record, Hotel California.
Really?
So yeah, Joe Walsh was Don Felder wrote the intro to Hotel California and a bunch of the chords. He recorded the basic tracks and added a 12-string guitar and a 4-track recording deck in his spare bedroom, then mixed in a bass line and gave Don Henley and Glenn Frey each a copy.
This is the episode when Mark read to us from the internet.
I'm just fascinated by how this stuff works. And he said it was a Mexican reggae bolero.
All right.
Don and Glenn wrote most of the words, and all of us kind of drove into LA at night. And nobody was from California. And if you drive into LA at night, you can just see this glow of the horizon and the images that start running through your head of Hollywood and all the dreams that you have. So it's kind of about that. Yeah. So back to Danvers, the symbol of the American inquest, right? Where the Catholic Church persecuted, murdered, and tortured thousands of women.
Well, it does seem like there's a human element of if you don't understand it, kill it.
Yeah. Tremendous amounts of not institutional, but natural wisdom was lost as a result of the arts, the healing arts, and the spiritual arts.
This is our happy episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Witch burning, abortions, Russians beating Nazis. It's such a good time in life.
Yep. Yep.
So, what were the highlights of Mike's horrible letter? What stands out to you?
I can't remember the verbatim. I don't.
So, is that COVID fog or is that just age?
That's just lack of caring. But what was interesting is then I was having, um, I don't mean that personally to Mike. I just, I don't
No, I
remember
understand.
things.
You don't attach yourself to negativity. I get it.
No, I don't remember things. I live in the present, okay? That's why it's called a gift, because it's the present.
And we open it every moment with every breath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some breaths harder than others. But I was talking with
Yeah,
Jonah
especially we
the
got
other
COVID.
night, and Jonah kind of was saying the same thing without the vitriol. And he was in essence saying that he believes humanity's always going to have people who take advantage of something for their personal benefit, regardless of the impact on others.
Like the convenience of single-use coffee cups.
Like the convenience of say with a plastic lid. Yeah.
No, it's biodegradable.
No, it really isn't. Man, your internet is spotty, son. Mark has left.
Are you
Yeah,
sure?
yeah,
No, I'm here.
you are here. But you've
Yeah.
been freezing and cutting in and out.
Well, it doesn't look like that on my end.
And there it is. I'm fine. Fuck the rest of the world.
I can see and hear. I hear you just fine.
Life seems comfortable to me.
Yeah.
Got warm coffee in my belly. Feel good.
Yeah. Um,
I don't hear
Recently, I've been
trees in
hosting
Brazil.
these events through this group called Men's Wisdom Work, and we do a men's community meeting every Wednesday morning. And the last 3 weeks, we've had some men who are coming in from places like Liberia and South Africa, and these are Africans, men of color, and the way that they share the experience of their lives is such just a whole universe of difference from most of what we are used to in these spaces, and it's been so rich and rewarding, and at the same time so heart crushing. One guy said this week that in the Liberian War all his friends died, he doesn't have any family, and no one talks to him, and he lives in this, like, he has his little iPhone internet, he's zooming into this call, and he's like got no friends, he said. And he's like, we asked him a heart-centered question about what his life was like, and he started to cry. He's like, nobody asks me questions like that. I have no one to talk to like that. And it was just this both heartbreaking and heart expanding moment to hear him talk and to be there as a group of men to represent the possibility of connecting across all the different barriers of time and space through the internet. It was an amazing experience. I don't think I'll forget it um, until I'm much older and I don't remember my own name.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
That was a personal callback to memory loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he a regular of the group? Is he
No, he
going to
just
be?
started. He just started this week, and there were a couple of
No,
other
but
guys.
will he be coming back? Like,
Well, I sure hope so. I asked him to. I said, "Hey, we have this thing called Mighty Networks, which is like a little mini social network inside our facility. And if you're interested, if you're a man or you identify as a man, come to menswisdomwork.com and join the portal. It's free, and we have all kinds of stuff going on there. But so he can interact with us. We can interact with him through the app, and the call is weekly, every week on Wednesday. And last week there were a couple other Africans, and then this week there were 3 Africans in there, and very articulate. Um, you could feel their hearts through all of the communication channel, and it was truly an amazing experience.
hey, do you have a good relationship with your mom? Do you feel it was a complete relationship when she passed?
Pretty good, yeah. Yeah, like, there was a lot, we were very close growing up, in fact, somewhat too close in certain ways, a little codependent maybe, and then later in life, we had a friendship, and we were allies, and she encouraged me in a lot of ways, and I encouraged her. And then in the last year, she was battling cancer, and um, I was doing some of the inner work to try and resolve some of my behavioral challenges that were showing up, and there was some context about the way she raised me, that what raised me, that I wanted to kind of talk over with her. And it was during my last trip to see her alive, and I remember a moment where I said to her, "Hey, like this, the way this was happening was not cool." And she said, "Just don't. I just don't have the energy for you and this conversation." And I was a little pissed. I was like, "I need to resolve this with you before you die."
Right. She's
And
like, "Fuck you. I'm dying, and
yeah,
I don't have anything to resolve with you, so fuck you."
well, and even in that tension and that conflict, there was still like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, it was still, the air was clear, and we were back to hanging out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. That again kind of goes back to that an individual who when we feel triggered by something that is said or an action, where there's an element of us that's wounded that we're protecting. And that's what I hear in your mom's response. It's like what you were approaching, she wasn't in a place where she could let it go. She, you know,
Well,
th-
no, it was more like she wasn't in a place where she had the psychic energy to actually dredge up the trauma and try to process it with me. But what I will say is that the 4,000 other times in my life that I had conversations with her like that, she showed up for me in a brilliantly beautiful way. Like, I owe so much to her for the powerful emotional intelligence and heart-centered nature that's just the baseline for me in my experience. It's, because, she and I were able to literally talk about anything. And we had so many amazing experiences together. And like, there's so many stories, but I'll tell this one. When I was in my teenage years, we had kind of a rule, which was, you know, I didn't necessarily have to come home at night on the weekends, but I had to call her first thing in the morning and let her know that where I was and that I was okay. And so I had this experience where I was at this really killer party in the Berkeley Hills, and I was dancing with this amazingly gorgeous woman. She was, we were the same age, and she was training for ballet, so she was just willowy and gorgeous, and had all the shapes of a woman, but wasn't quite a woman yet. And while we were on the dance floor, I whispered in her ear. I'm like, I thought I was just gonna say this funny thing, and that she would shut me down right away. But I said, "Take me home with you," and she said, "All right, let's go." And she took me home right then. And I had, to this day, one of the greatest sexual experiences of my life. And I had to sneak out her bedroom window in the morning so her mom wouldn't find us. And so I'm walking down the hill Sunday morning in the dawn of the summer of Berkeley, and the air is clear, and I'm feeling like so good. And I realize, oh shit, I better call my mom. So I get to a payphone because there's no cell phones in those days. And I call my mom, and she's all, "Oh, there you are." And she's teasing me. And I'm like, "Yeah." She's all, "How was that party?" And I said, "It was fun." And uh, I went home with this girl, and she's all, "Really? Congratulations." And she said, "I hope you were, cautious. And is it anyone I know?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I'm not going to tell you." And um, part of her was proud of me for being such a potent young stud. And another part of her was like, "You better be careful, young man," kind of
Right, right,
thing. And
right. That's interesting. I wonder if, from a woman's perspective, she also had empathy for the young girl, thinking of the potentials, like a dude could just lay this girl and walk away and think he's all badass. Like, she had empathy for you as a son and concern. You're her son. But I wonder if there was also an element of, like, I hope my son isn't taking advantage of some young woman
Yeah.
on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure that she didn't talk to me about that because she knew me. She knew that it wasn't possible really for me to do that. That's not how I'm made.
Did you and
Uh,
that girl do more together, or was that it? Just that one wonderful night and
we were friends for a long time after that, and um,
friends
there's
with
sort of a
benefits?
complication, but I'll go ahead and tell the story. That summer, my girlfriend at the time had been given a trip to Mombasa, Kenya for the summer. And we had made an agreement when she left that we were going to be away from each other and anything could happen. And that we'd been together 2 years and been sexually active. And so maybe it was okay as long as we were really honest with each other about it. And so there was this thing that happened in September when she got back from Kenya where we were reuniting and it was like super sweet. And then we both told each other the stories of how we had these other encounters while we were apart. And that really changed the dynamic in our relationship. Despite our best intentions,
Right.
we
Mhm.
weren't able to manage the discomfort that went with that. We were just too young and didn't understand really, what it would feel like for the other person to hear that, even though we both had fun experiences with
Right.
another human being. Um, it I was insecure about it. She wasn't happy with who I chose. We both knew the other person,
Oh,
so
interesting.
there was this aspect of not being able to have it be anonymous in that
Right,
sense,
right, right.
and that was hard.
Not
Um,
removed from.
well, and honestly, that fall, we stayed together and we ended up kind of breaking up in the late fall and very soon after she became enamored with older men from the Cal crew team. So she got just old enough to go to college. She wasn't in college yet, and she started thinking about 22-year-old super athletes. I
Right.
can't say I blame her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
She also
well.
was in drama class with Timothy Hutton at Berkeley High School.
Hmm.
And Timothy Hutton was in a film, and his first film, he won an Best Actor award for his role in that film.
What was it?
Um, I forget the name of the film right now.
Right. Right.
Um, it's a very character-driven film, and he was a very gifted and talented person. And uh, turns out that they had hung out at the Renaissance Fair one year. I wasn't really into the Ren Fair, but he kind of flirted with her, and she kind of flirted with him, and there could have been a thing, but there never was because she was with me.
And she blamed you for ruining her life.
No, she didn't. She didn't blame me at all. In fact, when we talked, 25 years, 30 years later, and there's still some juice there. There's still some really good connection there.
Nice.
Um, but she's married, and I'm respectful of her space and him. And there was a time when my marriage broke up when I was like, I wonder, right?
Right.
And getting in contact with her and then feeling that intensity, because the part of me that was immature at that point, which she wasn't, like, she grew out of me. Women do that at that age, I think. And I always regretted it. Like, I was hung up on her for 4 years after high school. Like, my early
Mhm.
20s were not like hers. I was the
Yeah.
guy who felt gun shy and couldn't get a date and was all insecure, and because it fucked me up. Like, losing her fucked me up in my head pretty good,
Wow.
which it didn't need to. I was
And the
very
ballerina wasn't on hand to help,
She was there. She was still in my social circle.
but not in
Um,
your intimate circle.
right.
Hmm.
Right. And I didn't pursue it because it was a casual thing at the time. And for me to say more right now would sort of risk identifying her. So I don't want to do that.
Okay. Is it
Yeah.
Meryl Streep?
No, she's not famous.
Meryl Streep's not famous?
No, the woman whom I'm still close to her too. Like I call her on her birthdays every year still, and she's still in the area.
All right.
And so yeah, so many great experiences. My mom was really encouraging and liberal and taught me a lot about emotional intelligence. And she also created some really difficult contexts for me as a result of different kinds of things. And parents are like that. It's like we all get this mixed bag, right?
Right.
So there were parts of my, she raised me as a single mom. I mean, my dad was around, but he wasn't
Involved.
a masculine presence. Let's
He
put it
wasn't
that way.
involved in your life. He
He
wasn't
was. No,
present.
he was, but he wasn't. It's not at the level of a real parent, right? He was more like someone I knew, right? And he was my parent, but he was very passive. There wasn't a lot of his parenting style, which also has its benefit. I'll add, was very like friendly. Like, well, let's talk about this. And he taught me a lot about esotericism and a lot about philosophy. And we literally smoked weed together for most of my teenage years. And it wasn't, hey, get your ass to practice, study for the SAT. There were some real like masculine parts that were missing in that relationship, right? But I'm not blaming at this point. I'm just saying
Right.
this was the context. And so my mom, who was a very potent woman, had masculine traits, and that fucked me up, right? Like she tried to teach me what she thought a father should teach a boy, which became problematic for
Like
me in terms
wood
of my
whittling
psychology.
and fishing,
No,
how to climb trees.
no, no. Sorry, I brought it up. I'm just kidding. That was just a funny thing to say. Yeah. So, how about you? What's your relationship with your mom? It's Mother's Day. She's still alive. Wish her a happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, I did. There's that aspect of our relationship that happened about a year ago now, where it's definitely a wound. I don't see it being healed in this lifetime. It's nothing, it's just like her thing with money. It just is it is a unhealthy thing that she doesn't want to deal with.
Got it. What else about your relationship do you love about her?
Well, I do love, and I don't know if this is alive in her now, but I had one experience I remember where we did a family trip to Hawaii, the 4 children, the 2 parents. And I think it was coming home. There was something about the flight, like things were canceled and changed, and we got onto it. And so here, the short story is my mom taught me about the element of etherealism, that there's more to life than the physical planet, the physical existence. And a real world example was this trip to Hawaii, and the flight changed. I think it might have even been a different airline. I'm not sure, but my mom was like, "We're going to get on the flight. Don't worry." And there was just no logic to that statement. And we got on, and I was like, "What about the luggage?" Because the luggage is blah, 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 blah. She's like, "Don't worry, it's all fine." And when we got off the flight, the luggage had some miraculously been put on the plane we were on. And I was like, "Wow, that's wild." And I remember there was no logic to it. And I did have a couple experiences as a kid where of like dreaming something that happened the next day, and these sort of I'd say they were almost hallucinogenic experiences, but I wasn't doing drugs in those days. And
Clairvoyant experiences, you're saying.
yeah, But yeah, yeah. So I think she was supportive of that realm.
Mm.
Like that wasn't weird to her.
So you're saying
And
her astral body would sneak out and steal money from people? Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying that I had experiences, and if I talked about it with her, it wasn't like you're lying, you're a kid making up stories. It was taken like, yeah, that's all real. And she also was very open-minded with music. So her and my father, between the two of them, had a very eclectic music collection. And I can remember being into folk music and Broadway musicals and rock and roll. She bought my first Pink Floyd album for me, and it was Uma Guma. So, instead of your stereotypical Dark Side of the Moon or Wish You Were Here, even, which would be a bit of a stretch, she, like I was fucking Uma Guma, holy Christ. She would listen to Brain Salad Surgery with me. Um, she didn't like Kiss, but she appreciated that I was deep into Kiss. So, and she also taught me the acceptance of everybody.
Mm.
Um, Her and my father, I had 3 foster sisters in my life where, these young women moved into the house and lived with us, and they were part of the family. It was not I can remember 2 times where my mom would pick up a hitchhiker, and they'd hang out with us for a few days before they moved on. Her and my father were very open and accepting of people, very welcoming. Like, I think I learned that from both of them of there's a place at the table for you, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, there's a place at the table for you.
Mm. Wow.
So those are the things the creativity, I think my mom was a very creative person, and I think the problem was she didn't stick with anything. So she's a very intelligent woman, and, I think what would happen is once something was into a groove, she'd get bored and move on. So nothing ever really thrived. But I learned how to weave from her. I learned how to spin wool into yarn. Um, all that stuff was heavily encouraged. A lot of the creative things I did as a young man, puppetry skills I was learning from this woman who was a master puppeteer, were encouraged by my mom. And my mom also had a way of just meeting incredible people. She went to Arcosante to learn something in the realm of weaving and looms and all that. And she ended up being friends with Paulo Solari and his wife. And on a family trip, again, one summer, we went around the United States in a motorhome and we stopped off at Paulo Solari's personal residence in Arizona and hung out there for a while. And when Est was a big thing, she knew Werner Erhard, and I met Werner Erhard and worked with his son for a little bit. And so she just has a way of kind of um,
Connecting with
joining,
people. Yeah.
yeah, connect. Yeah, she's
She
an
yeah. She's a
incredible
weaver of
person.
context.
Yes. And unfortunately, I think at this stage in her life, she's the financial thing, and also she's horrible in personal, intimate relationships. Just doesn't take responsibility for her piece in that.
Do you think that's Werner Erhard's fault?
No, I think that's hers.
She owns that, huh?
Well, she doesn't own it, but she should.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what occurred to me while you're talking was that this idea that you think that it's not possible to have a meeting of the minds in this lifetime Maybe you should try a mushroom trip with her and see what happens.